Hello and welcome to a special edition of the New Standard podcast here on Thursday morning. I am your solo host, Neil Coulong. We are breaking into your morning to let you know, as you've probably heard by this point, even 5 minutes after the news broke, the Steelers have parted ways with embattled offensive coordinator Matt Canada, something that the team announced this morning. Mike Tomlin also released a statement confirming the news that most Steelers fans have been clamoring for since at least this time last season. I'm trying to find whatever else there is on this right now. It's obviously very early news. As far as who is replacing him, we aren't sure of that yet. I will probably look to record something about that, but just to go over it, in the removal of Matt Canada, it confirms that he is an offensive coordinator in charge of the Steelers for nearly 50 games with never having reached the 400-yard mark, and was outgained in, I believe, it's certainly every game this season and probably well into last season as well. Canada was promoted internally from the team's quarterbacks coach to replace then embattled offensive coordinator Randy Fichtner into the coordinator role. Fichtner, prior to that, replaced Todd Haley, whose contract was not renewed. The Steelers have not had an offense that averaged better than 23 points a game since Haley was in charge. You might remember that as the Killer Bee days in Pittsburgh: Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, perhaps Martavis Bryant, kicker Chris Boswell, and if you listen to Vince Williams, as he called himself, Bince, becoming one of the Killer Bees as well. Again, in case somehow the Steelers have fired offensive coordinator Matt Canada. No word as of now, and I'm recording this at 8:50 a.m. Eastern Thursday, who the replacement will be. But what we know for sure is the Steelers have removed a coordinator for the first time in season in quite a long time. I'm not even sure when the last time was, but it's something that's largely unprecedented, certainly unprecedented for the Mike Tomlin era in Pittsburgh, in charge since 2007. They have not removed a coordinator in season during that time. In fact, they haven't really made moves with coordinators very often. The last one who was terminated, technically fired, meaning he had time left on his contract when he was asked to leave. I don't even know who that would have been. Fichtner was under contract. Fichtner was not under contract anymore. He retired. Todd Haley was not under contract. They did not bring him back. It may have been Bruce Arians, but I believe Bruce Arians' contract was up as well. So it's largely unprecedented. And if anything, I might point out that fans might be able to take some credit for this, considering this is an organization that has not made this move previously. The outrage from fans, not entirely because of a 13-10 loss at Cleveland in Week 11 for the Steelers to fall to 6-4 on the season, but rather the proliferation of a complete lack of offense for the Steelers, the disjointed nature of it, the complaints, not just from the fans, which I would imagine most teams expect, but the roar was loud enough that it was obvious the players were starting to chip into that. Even with veteran running back Najee Harris getting in on the fray, something he has not done to this point, in calling out the offense of being predictable in some situations. And it looked to me from a body language perspective several times when Harris got the ball and there was a defensive lineman in his face, something that doesn't happen as often to Jaylen Warren when he gets the ball, looked like there was some frustration coming from Najee in regards to the play calls that he got and the team's inability to execute those plays. The mounting frustration, regardless of who you're talking to, was apparent, and a change needed to be made. And I'll go back on this. I had said previously, and a very big if, the Steelers were going to make a move at their offensive coordinator position in season, it would have been after the bye. They did not do that. The Steelers, again, have fired Matt Canada after Week 11 this season, a move that is a long time coming in the minds of most fans. We can get into replacements, and I'm kind of stalling for time here just because I've got to leave in a second, and I'm curious if any announcement on that would be made. My gut reaction, and I hate putting this on video because I'll be yelled at for it later. My gut reaction would be that they'll follow in line with what they've done and elevate on an interim basis quarterbacks coach Mike Sullivan to that role. Not entirely sure if that's what they want to do. I would suggest, and certainly this is a wide open lack of precedent situation for the Steelers. I would suggest that they would not look for an outside candidate at this time. One, due to the outside candidate not likely having a very strong sense of what the team is doing or who the players are. And it being Tuesday already, they probably don't have any type of plan heading into what's now a critical game against the Cincinnati Bengals in Week 12 this coming Sunday. That said, I had felt from the beginning there was very little chance Matt Canada, after just 2 weeks, it was obvious he was not going to be around next season. The bigger question long term beyond, okay, somebody is telling me that Eddie Faulkner will be the running backs coach. Eddie Faulkner will be the offensive coordinator, and Mike Sullivan will call plays, I guess, according to Adam Schefter. That's interesting. I'm digging for that right now. What that would mean largely, I'm not seeing anything about Eddie Faulkner in here. We'll see, but the long and the short of it is continuity for the sake of this season is probably what the team would aim for more than anything. They need somebody who is familiar with what they have done, where they are, and what they would want to tweak to get better at. Everyone is going to say Byron Leftwich. Everyone is going to say Ken Dorsey, the Bills offensive coordinator who was just fired a couple weeks ago. I'm not exactly sure how that would improve anything, considering neither of those players could possibly have any real sense of where the team is and what they need to do. It's not Madden. You can't plug in a controller and just grab plays from a play sheet. You need to bring the team in a different direction from what it's been doing. To do that, you need to understand how they've been doing what they've been doing, and they simply don't have the time to do that. So again, I would imagine what we are looking at is an internal replacement. Somebody said Eddie Faulkner. He's an experienced coach. We know that. Mike Sullivan would have been my guess. The quarterback's coach or the offensive line coach tend to be the ones that a team would want to put into that role, just with the extensive knowledge that they would need to have in order to run things on a day-to-day basis on short-term notice like this. I'm not reporting that. I am just saying that that's what I would look at. Overall, I think what the Steelers have in front of them is a significant challenge, regardless of who is calling plays. This is not an offense that has worked in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, the Steelers feel a large part of that is on the offensive coordinator, because go figure, it's their job to coordinate the offense. It's not as simple as just calling plays. They're designing the plays. They're implementing the plays, and they're responsible for the practice portion of their game week preparation. They need to prep all the players on the plays. They need to be in constant contact, not just with the head coach, but the position coaches as well. And they need to take all of that feedback into account when they are trying to put the game plan together. Perhaps no player more important, I think goes without saying, than your quarterback. Therefore, it would make sense that the one coach who's probably going to know the quarterback the best is the quarterback's coach, in this case, Mike Sullivan. Whether that is an actual solution in this case, it remains to be seen. I would say this: there was some life. They have come around quite a bit in terms of running the ball. They have been successful in that regard the last couple of games. Obviously, it wasn't good enough this past week against Cleveland, but Jaylen Warren is probably the best running back in the NFL over the last 3-4 weeks. That should be strongly considered with whatever they want to do moving forward. He's making big plays. They're blocking very well. They've gotten players out in space a little bit better. Perhaps not the best game for the left side of the Steelers offensive line, but generally speaking, they have run blocked well, and they've seen results with that. The issue in my mind has been they have gotten abhorrent play out of their quarterback to a point where there are several backups in the NFL playing right now who are all better than the Steelers' first string quarterback. In fact, I had a friend ask me that. Is Kenny Pickett the guy they started with at the beginning of the season? Yes, he is. There are other teams, Josh Dobbs in Minnesota being one of them, that are on their second or even third quarterback that are getting similar results to what the Steelers are getting out of Pickett. This is not purely a coordination issue. This is an execution issue as well. Players should take notice of that, and I would imagine that they will. They are going to be evaluated with a much higher degree of scrutiny, considering they just got rid of a coach. Now the eyes are going to be on them to execute. Again, not that it needs to be said, but you are listening to the New Standard Podcast. Matt Canada has been fired from the Steelers. We are waiting for any type of official word coming from the Steelers organization as far as his replacement. I have heard now from a couple people, running backs coach Eddie Faulkner will take over the coordination piece of it with veteran quarterbacks coach Mike Sullivan, who has been an offensive coordinator in the NFL before. He was with the Giants back in their Eli Manning days. He will be the play caller moving forward. We'll wait for official announcement on that. I will probably have more later, but I've got to get going here. Thank you for tuning in. Again, New Standard Podcast. I'm Neil Coulong. Steelers have fired Matt Canada. I'm sure most of you are celebrating. We'll dig into this more, and we'll get back to you with more information as we can find it. Thank you for tuning in.